Breaking up is hard to do, but when it comes to your wireless carrier, you should have left a while ago. You deserve better. Xfinity Mobile. Break free from the big three.
Get unlimited with 5G included for $30 a month when you get 4 lines on Xfinity Mobile. Prices may vary and are subject to change. Reduced speeds at 20 gigabytes per line.
You're in the place where mysteries and the missing meet. Where conspiracies lurk around every corner. Welcome to the Deep, Dark Truth.
Welcome back to the Deep Dark Truth. I'm Mo.
I'm Mo. It me.
I'm Mo.
This is not in the script.
It's always in the script. We do this every time you
Welcome
don't do
back
an
to
episode.
the Deep Dark Truth. I'm Mo.
I'm Mo.
I'm Mo.
I give up. I give up.
Now, this was the line?
I thought by the second time, once I did it, it would correct everything, but it didn't, so I just give up, you know?
And today we're going to be talking about Dan Cooper, who you know as DB Cooper.
His name's Dan. I'm shooketh.
He gave his name as Dan Cooper. And you want to know why we call him DB Cooper? Because a newspaper fucked up.
What?
I saw 2 stories, but I'm pretty sure this is the true one. That there was someone who was investigated who was DB Cooper. His initials were that. And like way early on in the case. But he was cleared really early on. But a newspaper misprinted and said it as DB Cooper. And then all the other newspapers said DB Cooper. And now the title of our video is DB Cooper, even though we know better it's Dan Cooper.
Well, I have learned something today.
I didn't know that either.
Yep.
Before Chip continues on telling us about DB Cooper, let's hear from today's sponsor, Baxter Blue. Do you experience digital eye strain from too much blue light exposure from digital screens? Baxter Blue glasses are not your average frames. These blue light lenses filter 80% of the highest energy blue light, eliminating 99% of glare. This past year, we've all been glued to our devices more than ever.
I know I look at my screen way too much all day long.
And mine gives me headaches.
For years, my doctors have been telling me, before you go to bed, you have to have an hour before you get in that bed, not looking at any screens. Phone, TV, anything. No screens. Nope.
We're absolutely not going to do that.
We're millennials.
Our exposure to digital light has soared, and our eyes and our sleep are suffering as a result. Baxter Blue is also a force for good and provides a pair of reading glasses for someone in need with every pair sold. This is eyewear built for our digital age, and Baxter Blue is giving our listeners 10% off their next purchase of blue light sleep or kids glasses. Click the link in our show notes for your exclusive discount. This is the sign you've been waiting for to invest in blue light glasses. We know you will love your Baxters, and we know that you'll feel the difference. So Chip, tell us more about DB Cooper.
Well, first of all, his name is Dan Cooper.
Okay, listen. I don't need your sass. We already went over the Dan thing. It's not gonna stick. It was a cute little thing, but now we don't care again.
Stop trying to make Dan
Stop
happen.
trying to make Dan happen. It's not gonna happen. So tell us about DB Cooper.
Dan Cooper.
Mikey?
But he's
I
Dan
swear to
Cooper.
God, I'm gonna come through.
It's in the script. It's right here.
I will strangle you with this microphone wire. That's an Adam Sandler reference because I'm still one of those millennials.
I don't know how we're going to raise awareness and change people's mind that it's actually Dan Cooper and not DB Cooper if we don't
We
say
have to take
Dan
a stand.
Cooper.
But also, fun fact, apparently the French still say April fish, and they
I
still
love
put
that.
kick signs on each other for real Aprilness.
How did we get back here? That's a reference to something that none of you know because that is, in fact, a Patreon episode.
Yeah.
You should subscribe to our Patreon to learn more about why I will now be saying, thou art a fish, I have made a fool of thee.
If you would like to get our references, go ahead and click the link in our show notes to our Patreon episode.
So, there's not a lot of facts that we have to go on with the whole Dan DB Cooper thing. It's really just a skeleton and then a lot of conjecture by a lot of people who I will be ranting at. I may have gone down a rabbit hole of trying to analyze other people's theories. So let's get to the basic facts of the case before I start yelling at people directly by name. November 24th, 1971. It's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. A person who appears to be a white man walks up to a Northwest Orient flight attendant in Portland and buys a ticket under the name Dan Cooper. boards that flight along with 35 other passengers and flight crew, however many there were of that. And I don't remember what time it was that he got on the plane, but at about 3:30, he gives the stewardess a note that says, I have a bomb.
Just to cut you off at the knees, because you might say this, you might not. Hijacking in those days was actually very common. Like now when we think of hijacking, we think of 9/11, and that was not the case. People used to hijack planes a lot, which sounds crazy. That's crazy that people would hijack planes.
That's almost as unbelievable as the day before Thanksgiving being the biggest drinking night. It is the only unsolved skyjacking in U.S. history, though. The only unsolved one.
Really?
What year was this?
71. Turns out the passengers on the flight were told that it was just sort of an emergency stop, like, we need to gas up type of thing. They did not know. They weren't explicitly told that they were being hijacked and ransomed.
Wow.
That's probably for the best.
Yeah, can you imagine if they did know? That doesn't go well.
No.
Even if it's a fake bomb, that doesn't go well. Around 3:30, gives her a note to start telling people on the ground he wants $200,000 and 4 parachutes in exchange for the passengers' lives. They land in Seattle, as they were kind of supposed to. He exchanges the 35 passengers plus 2 stewardesses for the money and 4 parachutes. And he tells the captain and everyone else to fly him to Mexico City. And he's very specific about it has to be 10,000 feet, altitude low, and he gives very specific instructions.
According to inflation, by today's currency, that would be approximately $1,298,834.
Well, that's to 2020. I actually just calculated today, and it's more like 1.308.
Oh, this one says 1971 to 2021. Did you say 71?
71, yeah. Money's imaginary. Nothing's real. Let's get back to this fake case.
$1.3-ish million.
Right.
Many monies. $200,000 is, a decent amount of money, but $1.3 million.
That's parachute money. That's I'm jumping out in a parachute kind of money.
So he tells them to fly him to Mexico City, and at around 8 p.m., he jumps out of the plane and is never seen again. The end.
So short. So sweet. What are we here for?
He jumped out somewhere in between Seattle and Reno.
Yep. It's unclear where, because no body has ever been found. Only some money has ever been found. None has ever been found in circulation being used. However, in 1980, February 10th, 1980, a little kid, who was either 8 or 9, it's unclear, Brian Ingram finds 3 packets of bundled money in a sandbar called the Tenabar in Seattle, Washington.
Did he get to keep it?
I believe he got to keep 1 bill.
Ugh.
And they were 20s. He found the only clue that exists outside of witness reports.
I didn't find a bundle, officer. I found 5 20s.
Yeah.
It's very important that they are bundles. This is very necessary because they're all in order that they were given.
Okay, sir, I found 1 bundle of money. 1.
He's 8 or 9 years old. He doesn't know how this works yet.
He has parents? Where is this kid's parents?
9 years later, he finds them bundled together? That's crazy.
It is. So they are still in sequential order. They are the right numbers, and they are still bound in rubber bands. The rubber bands haven't disintegrated yet. We'll get to this later. And it is $5,800 he finds in total of the $200,000.
Wow. And he got to keep 20.
But then I'm pretty sure he sold it for a lot of money because, this is a D.B. Cooper dollar. So I'm sure he got his in the end.
Well, his parents did. He'll never see a dollar of it.
His parents spent it.
He finds them buried in the sand at this Tenabar, and that's the only evidence we've got beyond the actual flight. So let's get to the theories.
Love a theory.
My real rabbit hole with this was just trying to analyze other people's information, which was a mistake because they're all mostly out for money, which is why I shouldn't have bothered reading them. Big pieces of evidence to talk about. The money. A necktie. His vocabulary. The flight path of the plane. What was his deal? Was he good at this? And possible letters after the fact taunting people. So, money. Most interesting one. The Tenabar. The river was dredged up, and I had a lot of sand moved around at the time, in 74, and the money was found in 1980. So, one of the theories is that money was buried during that sand dredging, and put on the beach to wait there. It had drifted from upriver at somewhere, came down, got caught in the sand, and buried there for 6 years. But the problem with this theory is that the rubber bands were intact. That money had been solidly kept together somehow, despite drifting downriver, in the actual sand dredging, if it were in it or before, scooped up, put on the land. Rubber bands, turns out, don't last that long. They would not survive 3 years.
Oh, wow. I would have thought it would be a lot longer.
That's what I would thought, too. I mean, if it's buried, it wouldn't last?
Like, it wasn't protected enough from the elements?
Like the water, if any time that it could have been in the water long enough, it's very unlikely. Or it was placed there. It either got there naturally drifting or was placed there. Or, there are other possibilities, as in, like, just mechanical error? I don't know. It didn't just drift there, is the thing. So, who put it there? Why was a body never found? I don't know. You don't either. Did he live? A lot of people feel very strongly that he lived. Which I get, because, no body. But also, it's a big wilderness to find a body, and there are lots of wolves out there. Foxes like to eat cow genitals.
I think the fact that the rubber band wasn't disintegrated, though, makes you think that it was buried a lot more recently than X amount of years ago. And what is the motivation for somebody to bury the money if they found the money instead of just taking it? So, I mean, that kind of, in a way, supports maybe he was still alive because, I came back, or maybe he's going back to a certain spot, or just somewhere in general that he knows to bury the money, because he then became so famous that's like, fuck, now I can't even spend this money because they're gonna catch me.
Right.
So I'm gonna put it someplace safe.
Right. If someone buried it, they would have known that this had to have been his money, because those serial numbers are, blacklisted, as it were. If you just got money somehow, you wouldn't be like, I better watch these serial numbers, I should bury this in a river. If someone places it there, they probably know.
Yeah, unless you're 9, I guess. You're like, this is my money now.
But also, you walk up to your parents with $5,800, and they're like, okay.
Don't ask me how I got this, just know that I got this.
Finder's fee.
Just know that I didn't do anything illegal to get this money, and that's all you need to know about it.
I have a hard time believing that, it just didn't naturally, I don't know. That's weird. I would think they would last longer.
I mean, I've seen rubber bands get very brittle. It's not a matter of the entire rubber band disintegrating, but it would have got brittle enough to break.
They were, damaged. They did break easily when the time came. So they had been weathered, but they weren't so weathered that they had broken already. So, we've been exposed to weather, but not a ton of weather. The one site that I read, we'll get to discussing all the different sites, was they last about a year. Rubber bands of this quality can last a year-ish in water before they, just disintegrate. And this was 3 years.
So it wasn't just any rubber band, it was a garbage rubber band. It wasn't one of those really big, thick ones that you would expect. It was a garbage one.
It wasn't a name brand rubber band. It was one of those generic rubber bands.
Can I circle back real quick, though? But how do they know that, it drifted down the river?
They don't. That's the point. We don't know.
It's just the place that it was in.
But
it was either dredged.
It could have just survived there where it landed.
It did not land there. The flight path could not have allowed for that. Let's talk about the flight path.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about the flight path.
There is a mapped flight path of where the plane went from Seattle down to what was supposed to be Mexico City, ended up being Reno. Right. Well, it was always supposed to be Reno, refueling, whatever.
Right.
That flight path that the FBI uses, we don't actually know who officially made it. It was one of the airlines who was doing, and the military was sort of monitoring everything at that moment because everyone knew that plane was a bad plane. But it's not documented who exactly gave that exact coordinate line. And so a bunch of theories online base it on that flight plan was wrong. That path is not accurate to where the plane actually went.
That was where they were supposed to go until the pilot found out the plane was being fucking hijacked.
No, not the plan, but the path that it took. While they're watching it in the sky, we think it went right here as we're monitoring it on radar. Not just the plan to fly.
How do you get the path wrong? if you're watching it happen. How does that happen? I understand if, like, oh, this is the path of the plane according to the flight plan that it was going to take.
But radar,
this
right?
This is the flight path. Yeah, but radar, right?
A lot of people think it's inaccurate, and it was actually more west or more east, the flight, and so the actual landing spot would have been in this area instead of that area.
Is where the money was found? Would that be within either of those flight paths? The alternative, quote unquote?
None of them like directly, like it just drops out of the plane, but yes, when you shift the line, it does become more or less likely, because it's a big fucking shift. You have a plane, and the drift down from 10,000 feet.
I just think, like, it's super crazy that the rubber bands are still intact, and it, to me, seems like it hasn't been moved or weathered from where it was at.
But it would still have to get covered with sand somehow, so that it wasn't exposed to the wet.
It's a river. We're in Oregon and Washington.
It's just a sandbar. It's just a sandbar. I think that's where you're being confused.
Well,
it's
no,
a sandbar,
I'm
like
thinking,
how we have them.
I'm thinking in between Seattle and Reno. Like,
it was in Washington. It was where the jump-ish occurs and where the money is.
The pilot lands in Reno, correct?
Yes, he lands in Reno. The plane lands safely with all crew intact in Reno.
Because dude already jumped out of the plane, so they're like, all right, we're moving on to Reno like we're supposed to.
Did they report that he jumped off?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
They would have radioed probably that second, like, he's
right,
gone.
and then the radar knows where, at that specific moment, where they were at.
I guess I don't know how good radar is in the 70s, but they weren't very good at it.
We don't know that the pilot or anybody took note of the exact moment.
They had to be low enough to the ground, right?
10,000 feet.
Like, radar would know that they were going to, like, almost land, look like they're going to land. And then the pilot would radio, be like, okay, I think he jumped off.
But he told them to always be at 10,000 feet. They weren't coming in for a descent.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
They were just flying at that height.
Gotcha.
And he went, goodbye.
And so they wouldn't really know when he made that jump.
Not unless they noted it in the GPS coordinates, but I'm sure there was a lot going on.
I can only assume the crew was like, okay, he just jumped out. Because they have radio contact. It's not that they don't have radios.
Yeah, that just doesn't make sense to me. I feel like they should know the exact location. Or within a mile radius.
Sticking point. You would think, seeing a big parachute. It is 8 at night in winter, so it is dark, but you would think.
Yeah, well, and once he jumps off, he can go in a number of different directions.
Yep, and wind speed and all that.
But you'd still, I think, would know of, like, a radial.
Also, depending on how quickly he did his parachute. So if he pulls his parachute cord right after jumping out of the plane,
he's going to go backwards.
Well, he can go in, depending on the wind direction and the wind speed, he can go for miles and miles and miles. In that parachute, if he pulls the parachute cord at 9,000 feet.
Right.
If he only drops 1,000 feet, hits that parachute cord, he has 9,000 feet of drift.
Yeah, and there's your theories, because we don't even know the plane path for certain. You know, the FBI is going off this one. There's some weight to it. But if it's wrong, or even if it's right, there's no parachutes. Yes, I'll take questions now.
You mentioned other things, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Was it language?
Yeah, one of the weird things.
We will hold our questions for now, while you continue to tell us a little bit more about these theories.
We're clear to hear. Clear as mud. Everyone keeping up?
Clear as mud.
Mm-hmm.
Next, his weird vocabulary. Everyone being the stewardesses and the pilot or whoever, report that he doesn't have an accent. He has a very undetectable accent. But when he asks for the money, he uses the phrase, in negotiable American currency, which is a weird phrase for anyone to use. There are certain areas of Canada / the Midwest where the accent is very minimal for our ears to detect in general. So what if he came from there? But why would he ever use the phrase negotiable American currency? Even Canadians aren't going to use that. He's very calm man the whole entire time. He's very contained and
It's obviously, though, very planned out. Maybe the lack of an accent is because it's not his accent.
Certainly could be. You would think.
I certainly would not be using my real accent.
Right. As much as you are capable of acting in this moment, you are faking your accent.
I mean, I feel like it's easy for the English to kind of mimic Americans and Americans mimic English. I would just, he could have been very well English.
Like anything that's very adjacent.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little harder when you get into New Zealand accents and Australian accents.
100%, yeah.
But he seems to be a native speaker or, essentially fluent. Because besides these weird instances of vocabulary being, shifty.
And he could have been doing that on purpose, too.
But I think that's very true, but I think it's more likely that somehow he either slipped up or he planned to say that the entire time.
Right. Deliberate red herring.
Yeah, or just like, I don't want them to give me some other currency of money, because I'm concerned about that.
They're gonna give it to me in rupees. No. But for the most part, he is very calm the entire time. One of the stewards is like, he's very polite and pleasant. He wasn't, like, cruel or mean anything. If he wasn't hijacking this plane and holding me hostage, he was a very chill guy.
Fine, yeah. We could have been friends,
We could have been
Why'd you gotta play me like that? I really think, okay, this is just coming from me, somebody that is not the biggest fan of heights. I can deal with roller coasters. I hate takeoff on planes. Everything inside me says that this guy has either skydived before or this guy has been in planes so much through the armed forces being involved in something of that nature that he's been on such rickety ass planes before that he just doesn't fear death. Because first of all, I could never like this
of all the
is
crimes
never
you would
gonna
commit.
be of all the crimes that I'm like, this is how you would do it. This would never be one that I ever even thought of. I could not execute any part of this, and I wouldn't want to. I'm not jumping out of that fucking plane. No. So the idea that he knows he's about to jump out of a plane with a whole bunch of cash and that he's cool as a cucumber.
Or even able to keep himself calm. He's freaking out because he's fucking hijacking a plane, but...
Something about that is telling. I just am not sure how.
I'm going with English Secret Service, secret agent.
It's funny that you would bring this up, because there are a lot of theories about, is he a professional jumper or not? A lot of theories, people's guesses, are based on, okay, this guy must have been in the military. He must be familiar with jumping. There's no way he doesn't know anything. But there are weird things that he says sometimes when he was requesting those parachutes that I don't really understand the details of. But the words he uses was like 2 front and 2 back parachutes, was like not really how you would describe it. Like he knew the idea. He was like, I want these backup parachutes, but he's using weird wording, and he's not like analyzing the parachutes in a way that professionals seem to have. The reports of how the stewardess said he looked at them. He was like, no, just give me that one. And I think they came with did he ask for the instructions? I don't remember if he asked for the instructions, but they came with instructions, and he was like, I don't need them.
So maybe he's jumped before, but he's jumped with other people. Like, maybe it is a military thing. Like, he wasn't necessarily trained in a way that was, I'm a professional parachuter. It was more like, one time I was in Nam and they strapped the parachute and they were like, good luck, bud, pull the cord. Like one of those type of situations. He's not scared to do it because he's done it. The mechanics of it, he just knows what he's doing. He's not someone that is very concerned about any of the technical aspects. It's just, I did this one time. It was a lot of fun.
What if I did it again, but with money? That would be more fun.
Why the 4 parachutes, though?
I assume because he didn't want them to sabotage one.
I'm wearing all 4 of those motherfuckers. I've got them strapped around my legs. I got one of my
You're
back
not
and
jumping
one
out
of
of
my
a plane.
Listen, but if I have to, my point is, if I have to, just to, especially with the sabotage idea, I didn't even think about that. Oh shit, I'm really not doing it. I wasn't going to, but
well, it could help you get further away too, right? You could parachute and head a certain direction and then cut that one and parachute again and head further in that direction.
That seems way too dangerous. to be cutting a parachute.
Well, it's also
Another
dangerous
parachute.
to lift 4 at the same time on different extremities, Mo.
Okay, well, just the 2. One in the front and one in the back. I need a backup parachute. There is no way I'm going with one parachute.
He took 2. One...
Front and one back.
He took a real one and a back one. The one he
As he should.
he didn't take 4 of them.
I'm telling you, just in case.
He took a military grade one that they gave him, which some are like, that means he knows what he's doing. But also he was non-steerable, apparently. Whatever that means. Apparently parachutes can be less or more steerable. So maybe he's the novice because he chose a bad steering one, or he chose the one that's more durable, so he's less likely to fall out of the sky. It's unclear.
Or he had only seen military ones before, and they had always given him a steerable one, so he assumed that motherfucker was also steerable, and he was wrong.
The reserve chute he chose was non-functional. He chose the bad one.
He has 2 parachutes. What
One is bad.
is bad? It does not work. So they did sabotage one.
They did sabotage one?
Apparently, it's described as sewn closed and non-functional.
Oh no!
Is he an expert? He knows exactly what he's doing. Or maybe does he not know at all what he's doing and he just doesn't feel fear? Or somewhere in between.
Yeah, maybe he was already gonna die, so he's like, fuck it, I might as well hijack a plane.
I have 5 days to live. How will I use my time?
I have no supporting proof, but I feel like it's somewhere in the middle. I feel like he's jumped before out of a plane, but he was probably in the military, and it was with a parachute that was given to him. He was instructed on that exact parachute, and so he doesn't know about other parachutes. He doesn't know shit. And so he just knows they give me the parachute, and I jump, and that's what happens.
Did they say which one was the bad one, like the front or the back, or the
It was, I
military
think,
one
the
or
reserve, the backup one, was the bad one.
Gotcha. But the military one he probably used was functional.
As far as I'm aware. Citation needed. Citations found in the show notes.
Perfect.
But a lot of people go with he's a professional jumper, like in the military does that. That's his thing. Not just casual,
Yeah.
tossed out of a plane. They're like, no, he's done many a jump. The prevailing theory. But also, there's some weird
He
things.
could have just been playing dumb.
Could have been.
Like, oh, give me the one with the things. I seen that thing on the TV.
Yeah.
Could just be another red herring. He's very good because he's not caught.
We're going to take a quick break, but before we do, first I want to tell you about our new merch line, allegedly. That is, allegedly is the name of the merch line. That's right, we have taken our most frequently uttered word and turned it into a shirt of its very own. You can catch that link in our show notes. And we'll see you right back here in 1 minute.
When your entire life is online, you need more than just speed from your internet. Xfinity gives you reliable in-home Wi-Fi coverage, plus protection from Wi-Fi network threats. Go online, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today to learn more. Restrictions apply.
Everybody should definitely come to Baltimore.
We had to find a different way to put our passion to work.
If you love your job and love what you do, every day goes on as you want it.
I think how we look at art can be world-changing.
All of these businesses are taking precautions to make sure that everyone is safe. We're ready.
Masks, distancing, and frequent cleaning are just the beginning. Learn more at baltimore.org.
Where was I? Weird choices. Was he a professional? Was he an amateur? Was he in between? Don't know. Then there's a necktie. When he was hijacking this flight, he was wearing a plain black suit with a black necktie, and he eventually put on sunglasses. Thus, that picture that everyone knows. Not the Unabomber one, the other one.
And not the Men in Black one, the other one.
But basically Men in Black also.
Maybe he was Men in Black.
We solved it.
Stay tuned for our Men in Black episode coming this summer.
Will Smith?
No, the real Men in Black.
Are you saying Will Smith isn't a real Men in Black?
Oh, I'm sorry. I would never say that. You're right.
How dare you? How dare you disrespect him in this way? We will get sued.
By Will Smith? For saying he's not in a secret government agency? I don't think that's how suing works. Although, I don't know nowadays. I don't know.
We're skittish. Don't blame us. We should be. Back in my day when you sued someone, he was wearing a suit and tie.
Okay.
When the plane lands, there is a necktie. Like, the stewardesses aren't like, that's his tie, he put down that tie. But there is a tie, and it was on his seat. It could be someone else's tie. It could be his tie. Unclear.
100% his tie.
He took off his tie to jump, but he wore the suit to do the jump? It's weird that he wore the suit. I forgot that bit, just in general. It's weird that he decided to choose plain suit, brown shoes, bam, just looking like a professional.
I don't think it's strange. And the reason I don't think it's strange is because the assumptions that would be made about him are that he is a white businessman. People are most likely not going to harass a white businessman. There is a level of going unnoticed, just being another guy in a suit on a plane. The tie also makes sense to me because if he had jumped with a parachute before, he was probably worried that one of the strings would get caught in his tie and strangle him to death.
Right.
Even if you haven't jumped before, you're going to be scared of that. In a paranoid way or in a I legitimately know this is deadly way. No one wants to jump with a tie.
Yeah, but I feel like it's not really that much something you would think about if you've never at least thought out the plan of jumping. So not necessarily been experienced, but been like,
right.
Okay, I'm going to research what kinds of things should I wear.
There's no Google. How do you search what not to wear when hijacking and jumping out of plane?
Well, no, all the other hijackings that were happening at the time, though. Or just other related parachute things. I don't know. You ask somebody.
I'm still going with this English Secret Service agent. He thought he was going to look badass in a fucking suit. It had nothing to do with that. It was a style choice.
Mikey thinks he's like James Bond MI5.
Yep,
I'm not sure where the
basically.
love story will come in, but I'm sure we'll get there.
Obviously, the stewardesses were like, oh, he was nice, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, because he banged you in the bathroom.
And then him and Betsy from Pan Am, what flight company was this?
Something racist. Northwest Orient.
That's why he asked for 4 parachutes. Somebody was with him. A woman.
I feel like someone would have mentioned the second person. I just feel like that's not the missing piece of this puzzle.
She got too scared because she's not crazy and was like, I'm not jumping. What the fuck are you thinking? Why did you think I was going to jump with you?
You said we would just go to Mexico City. What do you mean jumping out of the plane?
We just met 10 minutes ago.
What if he was dating one of the stewardesses? Oh my god, we're on to something here. And she backed out. She was in on the whole
and
thing.
She regrets it because he might have lived.
If you're new to the show, the first thing that you'll notice is all of the theories are the exact same, just a little bit different.
They are not.
She wasn't the mastermind in this one. She was the one thrown under the bus.
I think there was a stewardess in on it. Why would he ask for 4 parachutes? And if he handed it off to the stewardess and she's the one that went in there, she would have been like, don't alert the people, they'll panic. You know, she could have totally calmed the entire conversation and everything and made sure everything was correct because she was in on it. But she was too scared to make the jump.
Coward.
And she backed out at the last minute.
Could have had half of 1.3 million. Approximately $100,000.
She might even still be with him to this day.
Jesus. All right, Chip, keep going.
Little anecdotal thing that I don't know it's true, I read it a couple places, but also it could just be made up, was that he gave her the note, and she just she didn't read it at first, you know, she sort of just neglected it. She's like, oh, okay, I'll read it in a sec, and he was like, no, you have to read my note. Read the note. And then she read the note.
Because she probably thought he was just giving her number.
Certainly believable.
I don't believe that. I think she was in on it.
Oh, right. Also a theory, he was well-dressed because when he lands and he needs to hitch a ride, you're a lot more likely to get picked up if you're wearing a dirty suit rather than grungy and untrustable.
True.
I can trust this white
point.
businessman. Why couldn't I trust a white businessman? The most likely person to both murder and rob me. Perception is everything.
Fun facts with Moe. The DB Cooper flight was the third flight in November of 1971 that was hijacked.
Jesus Christ.
So the first one was Charles Hill, Ralph Lawrence, and Albert Finney. They were driving a carload of weapons, I guess, to Louisiana, and then they eventually hijacked TWA 727 from Albuquerque to Cuba. And then November 12th, an Air Canada flight that was going from Vancouver to Montreal was hijacked, and then DB Cooper. So when I said earlier that hijackings were very common, I meant it.
Even weirder then that he is the only unsolved skyjacking.
He's actually brilliant.
Well,
He's crazy.
She was brilliant.
Okay, but I'm going to jump real quick. On the Wikipedia, so I didn't look into this one, there is one trans woman who, like, claimed to be him and then recanted. She was like, I did it because I wanted to get back at the man, and then they were like, you could still be prosecuted for this. And she was like, nope, never mind, it wasn't me. Please ignore.
Yikes.
I didn't do that, so good for her.
That's interesting.
All right, yes, sis.
Yes, queen, get that money.
That's a whole other can of worms. B.D. Cooper is not only not living as B.D. Cooper anymore, but is living as a different gender, and nobody knows that it's D.B. Cooper.
I think it's fun that a trans woman was like, I did it.
No, I didn't.
Oops.
And the excuse was I wanted to get back at the man.
I didn't read it too closely.
Stick it to the man.
Didn't dive in on that one. Right, so, necktie. We haven't even gotten to the reason I brought it up. I think it was 2008. First of all, there's no one in the FBI currently working on this. It is still an open case, but they're like, we're not wasting money on this. So there's lots of amateurs out there doing things, thinking they have the right answer and can sell movie rights.
Is that not what we're doing after the show?
God, it's been done to death. Can we pick a better case?
I think Mikey's love story is really gonna...
I'm telling you, start to finish, she was in on it. She was a pawn. And she got nervous about reading the note. She's like, I can't do it. She was already starting to back off, and that's why she didn't read the note. And he was like, just gonna read the note.
Follow the script.
And follow the script. And then she went through it step by step, and then just didn't have the balls to jump.
So, on the flight, he smoked 8 cigarettes in that whole time. So clearly he's a smoker.
How long was this at this point?
God, in total, it had to have been 6-7 hours. I don't know.
Oh,
no,
he's fine.
That's the thing, is that people are like, he must be a heavy smoker. And I'm like, it proves that he can smoke and does smoke. If he's a nervous light smoker, though, he could down 8 cigarettes easy. I can't down 8 cigarettes.
Pack of cigarettes in a night if I'm drinking this. He was about to jump out of a plane, and he was bored to death in an airport. I could easy smoke. If I was allowed to smoke in an airport still, I could easily. Pack of cigarettes, gone. Don't smoke, kids. Drugs are bad.
That's why I'm annoyed with he's a heavy smoke. No, he smokes. He can smoke. He is capable of smoking.
1 cigarette an hour, basically? No. Mm-mm. I mean, it's not typical, but he's about to hijack a plane.
He could have very well been a non-smoker, and he wanted to, again, hide his appearance and make people think that he's a smoker.
My point against that is that I am not capable of smoking 8 cigarettes. If you handed me a cigarette night now, you would know I've never smoked before.
If he might have trained himself all in the past. Like, I have friends that don't smoke, but have smoked in their lives and once in a while at the bars. If they're drinking or whatever, they could smoke a bunch of cigarettes.
Especially if they were about to jump out of a plane that they had hijacked. I don't think the 8 cigarette theory has a lot of weight to it. Of course he's smoking.
Yeah.
A particular team, who happens to be my favorite team, they are the least dumb of the bunch, did an analysis of the particles on this necktie that they got from the FBI. They found a lot of cigarette smoke. He smokes. What they also found was flecks of titanium. And this was high grade, like really damn pure titanium, which, as it turns out, was not common in the 70s. It was very rare and only in specific industries that it was being used. So it's weird that this tie is covered in like a significant level of the titanium flakes.
What industries was titanium used in at this period of time?
Titanium metal fabrication and chemical plants used to make planes. Often, the titanium, good-ass titanium in the 70s was being used for planes. But it's like in the industry rare bit. He has to be in the factory to be dealing with this sort of shit.
So it could be repairing planes. It could still be military.
Yep.
It still lines up with the military theory.
Or secret agent.
Secret agents, do they do their own dirty work? Are they working on the planes? I don't think they are.
Well, so one of the places theorizes because of these, they're particulates, but they're on the tie. So he's wearing the tie inside this factory. So maybe he's more like an engineer / manager rather than man on the floor banging shit together.
Got it.
Or scientist.
He's a professional, high white collar boy, but in these very specific types of settings.
Okay.
The reason I like this site, the ones that had this theory, the problem with it is sure, it's his tie. Did he get it from a secondhand store? Could have. Right. Could have this very interesting tie that he just happened to buy.
What is the site that has this theory?
Citizensleuths.com. They're my favorite because they are the only ones, I will mention this entire thing, who don't have merch to sell you.
We have merch to sell them.
Exactly. Even we can't be trusted, but these guys don't have merch to sell. I had to dig to find their personal links.
We can't be trusted because we're agents of the deep state. That doesn't mean everyone is.
I thought we were agents of chaos.
We're also that.
The deep state has too many rules.
I got an Illuminati invitation the other day. I can't remember what app it was on, but I think it was Facebook.
Okay, how come you didn't automatically forward it to me and Chip?
I don't know.
I'm offended.
There was this video with a
Are you?
swirling line and flashing lights. So, his tie is very interesting, but it could all be worthless.
Okay.
That information. It's very interesting that it's titanium in the 70s was rare, apparently, but it could just be happenstance.
Doesn't feel like happenstance, though. It could be, but...
People buy ties secondhand. The reason they check the tie, is people don't wash ties. So clearly this tie wasn't washed because it's covered in titanium bits. But they also supposedly have DNA from this tie.
Ooh, tell me about the DNA.
It's not tested a lot in that it could be a little bit not good because it's old and from this tie and we didn't have great technology and we finally recovered the DNA. But they have tested it against a few suspects, like 5, like a handful. And so the one that's evidence for Sheridan Peterson.
He actually just died. He died at the beginning of this year.
Yep. And did the secret die with him?
94 years old.
His DNA was supposedly tested against the tie and supposedly not cleared. Like, other ones who were cleared were like, oh, we know it's not him. That DNA isn't a match. But supposedly the FBI hasn't done that for him. That's weird. But also, like, if they actually suspected him, wouldn't they just... If they couldn't build a case yet, they were working on it. Wouldn't you fake say that it's cleared to get him off you so that he doesn't think you're onto him? Because you're the FBI, you're allowed to lie about everything. I don't feel it's that strong that they haven't openly announced that he's clear. But his DNA was tested against it, supposedly. And supposedly not necessarily not his.
I'm wondering if by the time they tested him, the DNA was so degraded, they were like, they have quite a few common markers, but also this part of the DNA, we don't know.
Yeah, we're missing a big chunk.
Also could have been bought from a secondhand shop, and anyone could have had their DNA on that tie.
But
very true.
He is a favorite suspect of one person in particular, and he, specifically, Peterson, has had a lot of fun teasing, as it were. He's like, I'm not D.B. Cooper, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Sure, people suspect me, and there's good reason for them to suspect me, because, I jump out of planes, and I do things, but it's not me. He was supposedly in Nepal? I think he was in Nepal at the time. Yes, Nepal. He was investigated by the FBI for it. He is in the stack of papers of people that they looked into, of like 1,200 people that they looked into, for the record.
If people thought that I did it, and I definitely knew that I didn't, I would definitely make people think I did.
Right?
For sure. It would be the best. D.B. Cooper is this larger-than-life myth. This larger-than-life...
Legend?
Yeah, this larger-than-life legend that
Pioneer.
people almost aspire to be because of all the mystery, even though we're definitely not jumping out of planes and going to hijack anybody, but the idea that...
We aspire to be.
He was never found, and that he got away with all this money... There's something about it that really captures people's imagination of what it must be like to be D.B. Cooper. And so, of course, if you don't do it, you're gonna play it up as if you did. And you're getting the notoriety that D.B. Cooper, in actuality, D.B. Cooper was already getting. You're getting a little piece of that.
Right? Mm-hmm. So he even, maybe, supposedly, confessed to it. But a lot of people have confessed to it. It's fun to confess to crimes you didn't do. You want the street cred, as it were.
It's so weird.
It's true.
I understand confessing to this crime, but, like, the kinds of crimes people commit. like they confess to, does not make any sense to me. They're like, yeah, I definitely murdered that person. And just the police are now on a wild goose chase. It's crazy.
But people think that's evidence that he, like, knows things about the case. You think he hasn't looked up a case that he was investigated for? Of course he knows about it.
Right.
Ugh.
Right.
So you said one person in particular really believed that Sheridan Peterson was D.B. Cooper.
A few people get movie deals and History Channel deals and book deals. Everyone's got a fucking book deal. The person who loves this one the most, who loves Peterson, is Eric Ullis. I assume his name is pronounced Ullis. I don't know. He was a professional poker player who dabbled in investigating this, and as it turns out, he is running for House of Representatives for Arizona. As in, like, he announced it while I was researching this. When I started the D.B. Cooper episode, he was not running. And then by today, he has announced that he's running. So I was very weirded out that Eric Ullis happens to be running for the Congress, the House of Representatives from my state. It turns out he's done it before, and guess what? He's lost. He's never won. He's run multiple times in other places as well, apparently. Once definitely in Arizona for the Arizona House of Representatives. So this time he's really pushing his D.B. Cooper bandwagon because he announced his campaign at the Tenna Bar where the money was found. You know how he's running in Arizona, but he announced it in Washington? That's weird, right? We all know that's weird.
Yeah, a little
This
bit.
is weird. That he's going to try and win via his fame. It might work, but also it's such minor fame.
When Sheridan Peterson died, he gave a statement and he said, according to OregonLive.com, quote, whether Sheridan Peterson was D.B. Cooper or not, may I suggest that he more than atoned for his life's failings. So he is a big proponent that he was D.B. Cooper, but equally is like, it's fine. Because Sheridan Peterson went on to, like, become dedicated to a lot of different political causes, and
yeah, it turns out he was kind of cool.
Yeah.
He was in the military. He was a Marine in World War II, and I think he did something in Vietnam, but he got radicalized while he was in Vietnam. So the reason he was in Nepal, supposedly, in 71, when he did not take this plane over, is because he was, like, researching things to help, like, be an activist. And then he became a teacher. I like him as a person. Eric Ullis, I'm a little on the fence on. He has run previously as a Republican and as an independent, and this time he's running as a Democrat.
It's a mixed bag.
Thankfully, I don't have to choose about voting for him, because it's not my district. So that's one theory.
So this episode has went a little long. Don't worry, we're not done yet. Look out for part 2 of D.B. Cooper next week. And then 2 weeks from then, catch our special on The Boy in the Box, featuring author Jim Hoffman, author of The Boy in the Box, America's Unknown Child, as well as some other very special guests.
You just listened to the Deep Dark Truth Podcast. See you next time. And remember, your local cryptids want to meet you.
Breaking up is hard to do, but when it comes to your wireless carrier, you should have left a while ago. You deserve better. Xfinity Mobile. Break free from the big three.
Get unlimited with 5G included for $30 a month when you get 4 lines on Xfinity Mobile. Prices may vary and are subject to change. Reduced speeds at 20 gigabytes per line.
Is it time for a new heating and cooling system? Turn to the experts at Griffith Energy Services and Carrier today and get 0% financing for 18 months on a new heating and cooling system. Get the comfort you deserve from Griffith Energy Services and Carrier. Visit griffithenergyservices.com today for this and other exclusive offers. That's griffithenergyservices.com. License number MDHVACR 01-2278.
Griffith Energy Services. Doggone dependable.